Right, live now to my colleague Lester Kiewit in Cape Town. As I was mentioning a moment or two ago, today the Joint Committee on Ethics and Members' Interests publishing its Register of Members' Interests for 2017. Lester Kiewit, good afternoon to you again. You were at that briefing today. Any interesting tidbits about who's given what to what minister?
About 534 pages. Interesting late night reading. It's a book of about 534 pages of members' interests, comprising of members of the National Assembly as well as the National Council of Provinces. Now, this goes back to 2017, so before the presidency of Cyril Ramaphosa, and still some old names appear in this registry of members' submissions here. Included is, of course, the president, the then former deputy president, who was then still MP in the National Assembly. Some 3 pages of submissions given by him to Parliament. He had already tabled his submissions by September 2017. I'm finding some really interesting things there. A lot in the way of hard liquor, lots of bourbon, lots of whiskey, and surprisingly lots of vodka being gifted from the Russian ambassador to several of cabinet ministers, including the former deputy president, now president, Cyril Ramaphosa. There's also a book given by the Indian High Commissioner to the Economic Development Minister, Ibrahim Patel. That book, Yoga for Busy People. There's also some very interesting, if I can go here to Minister Edna Molewa, picture frame depicting a baby elephant bathing. This from the Sri Lankan Minister of Sustainable Development. Some very interesting, some very funny submissions coming through in this members registry, but it does serve a serious purpose. The chairperson of the Ethics Committee, Amos Masondo, says that this is really a compact, a way of disclosing to Parliament and to public, keeping the trust levels open between the elected legislators and the public. But this is, of course, only the disclosed submissions. There are still plenty of classified submissions which have been made to Parliament, which isn't for the public's eyes. So still some interesting reading, but still some serious work that many journalists would have to go through, to combing through these submissions by MPs, trying to find out what exactly MPs have declared in the interest to Parliament.
Lester, as a matter of interest, all this vodka and bourbon and wine and whiskey that you're talking about, are they allowed to keep that once they have made the disclosure, or does that have to go to the parliamentary bar?
No, I think MPs are allowed to keep their gifts as long as they declare it. I have seen submissions here where Minister Gugile Nkwinti has had to first seek presidential permission from the then former president, Jacob Zuma, whether he could accept the gifts of cattle from King Goodwill Zwelithini. So while most of these gifts could be kept by MPs, that's all a matter of disclosing and declaring them. There's also certain methods where some MPs would have to receive permission from their party's chief whips to do external works. We know that there are plenty of MPs here who are practicing lawyers, and I've seen some names here where they've offered some consulting legal work that were done for extra remuneration. They have all, of course, had to receive a permission from their party's chief whips. But from what we can see, what I can glean so far, and what we've heard from the chairperson of the Ethics Committee, is that all MPs have disclosed, except 42 disclosed late. They say they're happy that MPs have disclosed, but are still investigating why up to 40 MPs have disclosed late, rather than. They say this brings some serious ethical concerns, where they want MPs to disclose on time, as accurately as possible and as truthfully as possible.
Lester, I know that you've just got your hands on that tome, and as you said, it's going to make a lot of late night reading for you this evening. You referenced the then deputy president, now president, Cyril Ramaphosa. What about the former president, Jacob Zuma?
Well, because the former president, Jacob Zuma, resigned as an MP on the first day he was elected as president in the National Assembly, his declarations is not found in Parliament's declaration of interest. He declares, or the President of the Republic declares his interest to the Secretary of Cabinet, who is the Director General in the presidency. The presidency has said that the President's declaration of interest is always open. You just have to go up to the West Wing of the Union buildings, make a request, and you will receive it. That's exactly what the Democratic Alliance's Musi Maimane did. I think it was late last year, going to the Union buildings in Pretoria and making that request for the declarations of the President of the Republic, of the informer Jacob Zuma. But as we have it here, some more than 400 MPs and delegates of the National Council of Provinces having declared their interest. Some old names also here. Seeing the name of Fikile Mbalula, who resigned as an MP to be the ANC's 2019 elections campaign manager. That's still declared in this registry. It's going to be a long night for me trying to get through these more than 500 pages of declarations.
Nonetheless, it's going to make fascinating reading, Lester. Just very quickly, what happens if an MP has been less than truthful in the declaration?
Well, that thing goes back to the Ethics Committee. There's various censures that the committee could then hand down to MPs. The lightest, one would argue, would be just a verbal reprimand in the National Assembly. This is when the Speaker of the National Assembly asks the MP that has transgressed to stand up, and they are just given a public verbal reprimand. There's also options of a fine that Parliament could impose on transgressing MPs. But sticking on that, Amos Masonda says despite transgressions, or speaking about the members' registrar, he says that these investigations into misconduct of MPs are still ongoing. He mentioned the issues regarding the former State Security Minister Bongani Bongo, the issue regarding Mduduzi Manana and the allegations of assault leveled against him. He's saying that these allegations are still being investigated. They will now go to a subcommittee of the Ethics Committee. He says he's hoping to finalize these matters as soon as possible. They'll then hand it over to the Speaker of the National Assembly once there's the outcome, with a recommendation of a censure or some form of punishment, and that punishment will then have to be meted out by the Speaker of the National Assembly.
Lester Kiewit, outside Parliament, thank you very much indeed.